Look at this bed.
Needs to be cleaned up.
It's in terrible shape.
Didn't quite get here before winter came.
I feel like I really dropped the ball on this whole section last year.
Well, you needed to have a place for all the critters to come and make a home, didn't you?
Well, I think what happened is that it got so overgrown that it got to the point you couldn't even walk in here.
And I think you might have a little bit of an issue with pulling things out that you think look pretty.
Yeah.
Like 10-foot sunflowers and fennel.
I can grow some fennel.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So
what I'm hoping we can do today is, look, everything needs care.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can rip out all the old annuals, like the sunflowers, we got to dig some of this stuff up out of the pathways. And if we want to keep it, we can transplant it into the bed there.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs to be composted. The pathways need fresh bark. It just needs that like spring lift up.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be cared for. So I was hoping that you could help me because some of it is really tough, especially the fennel. It has the most intense roots.
Yeah.
So we might actually have to dig some of those up because as much as I love fennel, you don't need that much.
No. And it went to seed last year. So it's probably going to be a big old problem this year as well.
It's going to be a bit of a challenge. But, it's just one of those things, little by little, bed by bed. So I was hoping we could just kind of tackle this one together.
Yep.
If you're up for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get after it.
So where should I make a pile? Where do you want me to make a pile? Out here
Let's
or over
make it
there?
over here.
Okay.
Yep. That way I can easily. Oh, look at that. Strong. Okay.
Well, luckily,
sunflowers come up pretty easily.
after sitting for the winter too, they come up even easier.
Not too bad. Yep.
It might be easier if we start on the other end. So that we don't have to make it all the way through. Look at this. It's just a jungle. I mean, look at this fennel.
Yeah.
It's 6 feet
I
tall.
know it.
And, it's just unbelievable.
Let's start with the pathways. That way we can walk unhindered.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have to make a pact with me
What?
not to let this happen this year.
Well, okay.
How about that?
I'll try my best. I really will try my best.
That's not how a pact works. So what do you do in a garden where stuff has gone to seed that you don't necessarily want it to go to seed? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a good 4 inches of wood chips down on the pathways, which should snuff out some of the seeds. And then do the same thing with compost in the bed, which should help to bury things that deep. But then you got to learn your weeds and you got to learn your flowers and which ones, what they look like, because then you can come in here with a little hoe and do them when they're really little and it's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
And usually they do it in huge clumps.
Yep.
So you can kind of see, oh, that's where that fennel head exploded.
Yeah.
And now I've got a bunch of baby fennel, but it's so much easier when they're small.
Yeah.
So like learning to recognize them at that stage is the big piece of it.
All right, I'm just gonna be working on this for the rest of the video.
There's only 5 of them. Just kidding, there's only 3.
Birdie, dig this out. So, no fennel, no hollyhocks,
What?
no sunflowers in this garden.
What?
No fennel, hollyhocks, or sunflowers in this garden.
Well,
You need to pick a different place for those. Different place, right? Am I right? I'm right, though, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the problem is they just crowd out everything. And you know what I'd really like to plant in here is zinnias.
Let's do that instead then. Zinnias.
They're short.
Yeah.
They grow from seeds so easy.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Yes, they are.
And it would allow some of this other stuff like the Veronica and the Columbine,
Yeah.
the strawberries to still live.
Let's do hollyhocks and sunflowers and stuff, maybe like a little bit further away.
Okay.
Let those kind of grow, maybe in the greenhouse.
I
the
also have a
greenhouse
big
pasture.
section of the herb garden where they could grow.
Or the herb garden, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That means every baby sunflower that I
Yes.
see in here, I have to pull up.
Yep, and all through here too. Yeah. Because they end up they're really pretty, but they end up overtaking everything.
They do. They're
yeah.
very bossy.
Yep.
They demand attention.
So yeah,
Don't they?
I think we just got to do it. What were you saying about being our own nursery?
Well, I was saying it's pretty incredible because after you grow for a while, you start to collect all the varieties of things that you want, right? And then if you let them go to seed, or some just naturally spread like these strawberries, then your job becomes less planting and more transplanting, right? So like over in this pathway over here, I have columbine that went to seed. So I could go and dig up 45 starts of columbine and transplant it somewhere else in the garden where I want the columbine. Or like, you know, I'm really gonna try this year to keep my pathways clear because you don't think of it as a big thing, strawberries in the path, kind of charming, but then they're not growing where they're supposed to. They're creeping into gardens where they're not supposed to be. So instead, it becomes kind of coming through, and this is a great time of year to do it, pulling up the transplants, or you know, these extra, right? Because these are all just offshoots from the parent plants, which are inside the bed. And they're just growing whichever way they want because I wasn't in here shooing them back in where they should go. So now, you know, kind of the way you keep refilling your beds, because every plant has a certain amount of seasons it'll grow for, right? Mm-hmm. So in order to have replacements, you need to constantly be replanting things. So the parent plants, you know, they only live for a few years and then they don't produce anymore. So you rely on these new ones to produce. So if you keep wanting strawberries every year, you have to keep them planted. You got to keep them going.
That just makes sense.
It's just good maths.
Yeah, it's good maths.
And these, you know, things like strawberry starts of good productive varieties, these are expensive. Like these cost a lot of money to buy.
Good money.
Good monies. So when you want, you know, I don't know, it's just you kind of have to get in like the cycle of making sure you have things growing, making sure things are replanted, and, you know, trying to be economical about it. Because you can't just go buy wads of new things every year. And if you learn how to kind of cycle things through, hopefully things stay productive.
Yeah, especially when they cost good money.
Good money.
And that's good money is different than regular money. Dusty Slay taught us that.
Oh, Dusty. So my friend Audrey and I were just talking about the foods that you can eat all the time without ever getting tired of them. Mm-hmm. Do you know what mine was?
Probably pasta.
Pasta. It was pasta. And after dirty, grimy workout in the garden, you're hungry. Mm-hmm. You're so hungry. And this is the time of year when I actually have to put a little bit of extra effort into making sure that there's food, because there's so much going on outside and stuff that can keep you busy all day long. And if you don't think about food, you're in trouble when it comes time to eat. So this is kind of like a make-ahead baked pasta dish. So you can make it in the morning or at lunchtime when you have time so that it's ready for you at dinner time, which is really a treat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I thought you could help me with some of it.
Here to help.
Okay, and we're going to make it a little extra special because we're going to be using a black pasta, which is dyed with cuttlefish ink. It doesn't change the taste, but it makes it look really cool. With Bona Fortuna products, you have the opportunity to bring delicious Italian food stuff into your kitchen. There's a special link for you to shop with below. Many of their products come directly from the island of Sicily, where the farm is managed to work in harmony with nature. Bona Fortuna is an example to other producing farms around the world on how food can be grown in a sustainable and incredibly delicious way. Bona Fortuna makes it possible to stock your pantry with dried heirloom grain pastas, pure, cold-pressed olive oils, aged balsamic vinegars, a variety of the very best tomato sauces, biscotti, almonds, pistachios, and even prepared pestos and tapenades. Their pasta is made with heirloom grains and grown organically. They're working hard to offer something perfect to the world. I've got a special link for you to shop with below. Enjoy shopping around for wonderful Italian pantry staples, and you'll soon fall in love with Bona like I have. Okay, so why don't you chop? We're gonna start a ragu. And like most, it starts with, this is literally my last carrot, and a little bit of celery. I love the insides of celeries. And an onion. And this is gonna kind of get us going. So do you wanna chop these? And I'll chop the onion.
All right.
And then we're just gonna kind of soften those down in some olive oil and a little bit of butter, and then add in our meat. And to be honest, today has been so busy outside that I forgot to defrost the ground meat, which is totally fine. I have it in a little bowl of hot water over there just while we chop the vegetables, and I'm gonna add it in. Even though it's gonna be still frozen, we're just gonna cook this down in some tomato sauce with a little wine, with a little garlic. It's so, so simple, but somehow these flavors combine to make something greater than themselves. So we just wanna do a nice little fine chop on that. I'll get the onion going. God forbid I just follow a recipe straight all the way through. This is based off a recipe in one of my favorite Italian cookbooks, Lydia's Mastering the Art of Italian Cuisine. She does hers with a pork ragu, but obviously we grow lamb here, so that's what we have. So that's what we eat. If you're giving Bona Fortuna a try, which you absolutely should, make sure you try out the olive oils, which are spectacular and super fresh right now. Olive oils should not be sitting around your kitchen aging. You shouldn't be saving them for special occasions. These deteriorate very quickly, and they're at their best right when they're pressed. So you really want to get fresh olive oil. It tastes so much better. One of my very favorite blends from Bona Fortuna is called the Forte blend, and it's really wonderful. They also have a heritage blend that I love as well. So there's really great ones to try. I just finished off the last of mine, so I need to go get another bottle. Juju,
Yeah.
you want to add these veggies into our pot here?
Sure.
The ones Daddy's chopped? Okay, why don't you come grab them? Add them into the pot.
Do I just grab with my hand?
Let
Sure.
me just finish this last little bit, and then we'll dump them in, okay?
So I've just got a little olive oil and a little butter in the pan.
You ready?
Ready? Okay, I'm gonna carry this over.
Oh, you're just gonna scrape it?
Use this spoon.
How was that?
Oop. Okay. Careful. Yep. How'd we do? Get it? Okay. Good job.
By the way, if you're gonna make a vegetarian version of this without the meat, it will still be absolutely delicious, but you're really gonna wanna up that butter and olive oil in the pan. I cook my ground meat and I leave all the fat in. It's nutrients, it's flavor. So I know that my ground lamb that I'm going to use has quite a bit of fat in it, so I'm able to get away with not quite as much butter and olive oil in the pan. But just something to think about. If you want to make a vegetarian version with something like eggplants, then you're going to want to add a little bit more fat. It smells good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Have one.
Sure.
Woo!
A little spicy. A little spicy. Okay. You know, if I really had my life together, I would just always have chopped celery, chopped carrots, chopped onions ready to go in the fridge. Like, can you imagine just having a big tub of it? And every time you started a sauce or a soup, you could just scoop out some.
And that what they do in like prep kitchens before
Yeah.
before they have to cook
Yeah.
for dinner for the evening. They just get all their bases ready.
Yeah. I never cook like that, though, because
There you go, Mom.
You don't own a restaurant?
well, it would make it easier for sure. But I like the process of daily cooking. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't do a lot of like mass food prep or cook ahead or those kinds of things because I like cooking. Thanks, Juju.
Stir it.
Yeah. There's some things you kind of need to do that for, like
Yeah.
sauces and stuff like that.
Sure.
Maybe. Certain kinds of sauces.
Certain kinds. All right, let's add the meat.
Oh,
What kind of meat we got here?
This is some ground lamb from our lambs
Ooh.
last year.
Lots of ground lamb this year.
It's just such a versatile meat. You can use it for so many things. And of course, you know, ground pork is the most traditional for like a pork ragu. People use beef. A lot of times people will just use like an Italian sausage or something like that, which is also delicious. But, you know, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, what do you have? What do you have? Use that. That's going to take a little bit, Juju. So you know what we can do is actually just put the lid on, kind of let it cook down and let those vegetables soften. Let's clean up our area and then we'll be ready for the next thing. The garlic held up pretty well this year.
All right.
yeah.
Some varieties definitely hold better over the winter than others.
Can you think of them off the top of your head, what they would be?
The one that I find holds the best is this one, which is called Music. And what I like about Music is that it has these huge cloves. And because it's a hard neck, you know, it has that kind of hard spine that goes up the middle, right? And then you have the big cloves that are around it. And so you don't have to mess with those teeny tiny little cloves. So soft neck is nice because you can braid it. It's really
Sure.
beautiful. But the cloves get smaller and smaller and smaller as you go towards the inside of the garlic. And I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to be peeling all
You
those
just
really
like the
small
nice
ones.
uniform,
I just
you know
wanna-
what you're going to get each time
Yep.
sort of thing.
Totally.
Consistency.
And because this garlic, I mean, this came out of the garden in July last year. So it's old. Which means, I mean, that's why I'm using 4 huge cloves in this recipe.
Yeah.
And I know Lydia's only calls for 2 cloves. But it's not super spicy.
Right.
It's been sitting for 8 months.
Yeah, so you need the extra.
You need a little bit of extra. If it was really fresh garlic, there's no way I'd want to use that much because it would just overpower everything. But
Right.
see that green? That's where it's thinking about not growing.
It starts to use all of its energy to
Right.
push out this new green growth.
Right, exactly. It wants to grow.
All right, you're filming.
Is Juju going to film?
Yep, she's filming.
All right, Juju, you know what the next step is?
No.
We're going to put the garlic into the pot with the meat. So I'm going to go over here and scoop it up. And then I'm going to move it over here to this pot.
Okay.
Can you follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Daddy's going to help.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
here we go.
Daddy!
There we go. Smells good already. And then we have another ingredient to add, which is a cup of white wine. This is just the dregs left over from last night's bottle. So this is going to add in a lot of flavor. It's going to add in a dimension that we need. So don't skip it.
Daddy.
Hang on, hold still.
I'm trying. You're
All right,
Ready?
all right, Daddy's turn.
Okay.
All right.
Woo! That was fun.
Was it?
Yeah.
All right, well, you can kind of stir that around if you'd like, Juge, or you can put the lid on. I want to talk about a few of the other ingredients that are going to go in here, because this is one of those dishes that's only as good as what you put in it, right? So like they need to be good ingredients. And the great thing is that when you're using really great ingredients, you don't have to do that much work. It makes your job a lot easier. This pasta, I cannot say enough good things about. And actually, I sought Bona Fortuna out because we went to Sicily. And I came back and I just thought, why is their pasta so good? Like, what is it about it that makes it so different than pasta that I've had before? I get online, I try some various brands, and they're kind of hit and miss. And then I find this heritage grain pasta from Bona Fortuna that's grown, made, processed, the whole shebang in Sicily. And you guys, it's so good. All pasta is not created equal. And one of the simplest ways that you can tell that, of course, you can't see the heirloom grains inside there, right? But what you can see, okay, do you see the dark? Can you see kind of the texture on the outside of these noodles? Do you know what makes that? Well, I know you know what makes that.
What makes it the brass die.
It's the brass die. And so when this is pressed through the machine, or a bronze, that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, sorry, bronze.
And it goes through the bronze die, it creates this texture on the outside of the noodle, which holds the sauce on. And it doesn't sound like a big thing, but when you eat pasta that hasn't gone through a bronze die, the sauce just slips off of it. And it tastes slimy. It's a completely different eating experience in your mouth. Oops, as I drop it. Okay, one other product that you should know about is the tomato passata. We grow a lot of tomatoes, a San Marzano style tomato that grows really well here. We process our tomato passata and we put that up every year. We don't always get the amounts right. And so when we run out or when we need more of one kind, then we get it from Bona Fortuna. But I will tell you, buying these delicious bottles of passata is so much easier than doing it yourself. I love growing tomatoes. I love making passata, but that's not what everyone's gonna do, because it's a ton of space and it's a ton of work to do that. And I love the process of it. And I think that's why I appreciate really good bottles of passata, because you know how much work goes into doing this, especially last year because our saucer broke.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Uh-huh.
That was no good. Okay, so that's really the rest of our ingredients. We've got everything kind of simmering, softening here. I'm gonna boil my pasta till it's al dente because it's gonna finish cooking in the stove. I've got some tomato passata here. I'm gonna use an oregano one too because that sounds good. And that's it. Then we're just gonna assemble. How are you feeling about the gardens after today's work?
I mean, there's still a lot of work to do, but I actually feel pretty good about where we're at with everything. It's not done.
Is it ever?
And it's not like ready for spring necessarily, but spring's coming whether or not it's ready.
Right.
But I think we'll be ready because we've had a mild winter, and that's given us more time to actually work out. Like, we've had more bare ground this winter than we've had in the past, so we've just been able to work outside a bit more. So that's been very helpful, and we've gotten a lot done.
Yeah. Having the compost and the wood chips on hand too is really helpful, because then as you kind of clean through the garden beds, right, you prune things back, you pull out weeds, everything's getting a top dressing of compost, which helps suppress weeds, help hold in moisture, add nutrients, all the good stuff. What? You don't get any pasta. And then, of course, the same thing on the pathways, right? The wood chips, they help hold down the weeds, and it makes it look nice. So each time we go out and we work and we touch a bed, then you go out and you see it, you see that bare ground, even though there's no flowers or anything yet,
It does look better though.
It looks nice. Passata. Save these jars, by the way, because you can use them for your homemade passata if you're so inclined.
Oh, tomato passata. Yum.
Got really beautiful lamb ragu going on now. What do you think, Juge?
It looks really good.
All right, see what you got there. Is that enough?
Not a pinch? That's not a pinch.
That's a good old pinch. We're gonna add this too, some spicy pepper.
Can I add it?
Lydia adds crushed red pepper flakes to hers.
Mm.
So we're gonna add. You kind of have to break it up, and then you don't want to touch your eyes afterwards because it's a little spicy. Do you want to try?
Yeah.
Then you know what I think we need? More olive oil. Just a little bit more olive oil, eh?
Yeah.
There we go. All right,
Can I stir?
gently stir it.
Gently.
Okay. It's perfect.
It's hot.
It's just a little firm.
It's perfect, but it's hot.
It's perfect. Perfectly hot.
We're hot.
Okay, there's one important thing to remember here. You've got to add in a cup of the pasta water because those noodles are covered in flour. And when that comes off in the water, the starch gets into the water. It just makes a creamy sauce. It's good. Okay, we got to be careful here.
Okay, this is my plate, guys. Gotta make
I
5 more batches.
might have should have used a bigger pan. Okay, but we're not done yet.
Oh, this smells so good. I just want to eat it.
Okay, it's looking so delicious, but this is gonna go into the oven and it's going to bake. The noodles are gonna finish cooking. The ragu's gonna cook down a little bit more, which means that we are pretty much required to put cheese on top because it's gonna get all creamy. I'm gonna use a combination of a hard cheese and a soft cheese because ricotta goes all creamy. It's gonna mix in with the ragu and just be delicious. So I'm gonna add in just some dollops of that across the top. Mozzarella would be wonderful here too.
It is mozzarella, right?
This is ricotta.
Oh.
Okay.
Similar.
And because it's our very favorite cheese in the whole wide world, what cheese are we gonna do now?
Cheddar?
It might be your favorite cheese, but it's not mine. Parmesan. Juge.
Hot, okay.
Here we go.
In the